Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the DC Comics Multiverse Dawn of Justice Batman figure. Just like Superman, it's pretty much along the lines of your DC Universe Classics or Movie Masters figures, so it should fit in with the collection no problem. And at first glance, I was pretty disappointed with this figure, but it does do some things pretty well, and it does some things pretty horribly, so we're going to go into it. It's definitely got a kind of a mixed emotion kind of thing going on. I love it in some aspects, and then I hate it. The reason I love it is because it's all new sculpt. That's fantastic. We don't get that enough these days, so I really do appreciate that. It does have some paint on it, as you can see, so that's okay. But other than that, it's pretty disappointing. So let's get into it. He stands roughly about 6 3/4 inches tall, so he's got some size to him. About 17.5 centimeters roughly. And like I said, the sculpt work on it, all new, obviously. And unfortunately, it doesn't really match the look of the movie. It's not, the movie's all textured, and this just has lots of wrinkles in it and some seams. So it's acceptable, but it's definitely not accurate. Additionally, it's not the right color. At least as far as we can tell in the movie, he's much darker gray. Closer to that kind of gray for the entire suit, like the dark undersuit right there. That's what this guy should look like everywhere, I think. Obviously, we've only seen some trailers. Those two things aside, the general aesthetic of the figure isn't too bad. He has a bit of a potbelly thing going on, the way they work the ab crunch in there. But once you pose him a little bit, it's not horribly noticeable. The head sculpt, I can see where they were going with it. It doesn't look that great, but at the same time, at certain angles, it doesn't look too bad. So I'm kind of torn on that also. It does bug me a little bit that the head is all textured and that the rest of the cowl is not, the cape part and the neck part, not textured. So that's a little disappointing. But otherwise, it's generally not too bad. I'm okay with it. So where we really come into some problems is the articulation. But first, it's the sculpt for the biceps. They're just way too short and fat and too high up. It doesn't look anatomically correct. It makes his arms look short. I don't think they are technically too short, but they are too short. So that's kind of a problem. Now let's go into the articulation. The head, no up and down at all. You're just going to get that swivel. The paintwork for the head, not particularly good. It's not terrible. I found a decent one. But the eyes do look a little weird, and there's generally some black paint under the nose on all of them. This is the best I could find. He does have his lips painted and some stubble painted on, though, so that's kind of cool. Alright, so back to the articulation. The shoulder, no problem with the range of motion. That's pretty good. But you can really see how stubby the bicep is once you start to pose him. You can hide it, but it is a problem. We have the full swivel, so that's fine. Single jointed elbow, you do get 90 degrees out of it, so that's okay. And then we have a wrist swivel. This one does have an ab crunch, so that's pretty good, but the range of motion for the ab crunch is almost nothing. So it's almost like they shouldn't have bothered putting it in there because it gave him a pot belly, and it doesn't work that well. It's kind of disappointing. He does have a waist twist just above the belt, so that's good. For the legs, standard DCUC style legs, but the way they are designed, he doesn't have the best range of motion, so that's not ideal. He does do the splits just fine, but again, it's a pretty ugly joint, so it's not great. And we do have our thigh swivel, so that's good. We have our single jointed knee like we would expect. You get almost 90 degrees out of it, so that's pretty good. And then you have your ankle hinge, which has pretty good range of motion. Now here's where we have a problem. Look at the legs. The cut joints for the thigh, the swivels, are at an angle. The knees are square, but then the legs are sculpted, twisted, so the toes point out. So when you bend the knee, look at what happens to his foot. It ends up flaring out to the side. Let's get that cape out of there so you can see it better. It does not look very good at all. And then his ankles are obviously nowhere near lined up. So you're not going to be able to pose this guy very well. And if you rotate that, then it just flares the whole leg out to the side. So the sculpting, it really, really hurt this. Having the thigh swivel at an angle doesn't help it any. So it's not good. The toes don't line up with the rest of the leg. They point out to the side, and the way the knee joints are sculpted makes it even worse. So it's fairly problematic in posing this guy. So he's pretty disappointing overall. He'll be okay to just stand there and look okay on the shelf against the other guys, so that's all right. But it's it's not particularly good. So I can't say I honestly really recommend it unless you're just going to grab the whole bunch. In which case, he's not terrible enough that you're going to be upset about it, but don't expect him to be very good. It's not a very good figure. So and then the Build-A-Figure piece is just the grapnel gun, which takes 8 figures to build. So I don't really get that. It's such a gimmicky type of thing. Like, how about a Build-A-Figure figure actually? Oh well, there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me put him up against Superman real quick for you in the video, and I'll do it also in the photos. There you go. No kiss. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can see my upcoming figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.